Imperialism in Asia and Africa. Imperialism. It is the intent of dominating the politic, economic, and social life of the people of a particular nation. The rise of it was fueled by competition of European powers, nationalism, demand of raw materials, superior technology, and a belief in racial hierarchies. Imperialism in the 19th century. In the 19th century burns the reach of imperialism, 1800 to 1914. The industrialized nations from Europe engaged in an unprecedented competition to acquire overseas colonies. A struggle for economic and military power largely motivated this intense rivalry, which historians refer to as the New Imperialism. Factors that facilitated imperialism: technologically advanced, better control of their empire, they had access to medicine, colonies were not unified, industrial revolution, and social Darwinism. European imperialism. Britain dominated the 1800s, having the world's strongest navy and the world's strongest industry. European powers first tried to divide Asia. British ruled India as colony. European powers then divide Africa between them, mostly Britain, France, and Belgium. American imperialism. In the late 1800s, the United States began to intervene in the affairs of its southern neighbors. We've got also the Spanish-American War, which expressed the power of American imperialism, which got them to conquer Philippines. Japanese imperialism. For the Japanese, the imperialism was an advice to wake up and start preparing for foreign attack. They developed in a drastic way within few time, reaching all the levels of industrialization and starting the way to become an outstanding empire. Characteristic of the colonies. Africa. Many Africans consider colonizers to be oppressors rather than protectors. Indirect rule by the British. The British kept the old African elite in power and allowed these African leaders little input in decision making. French style of rule. The French encouraged Africans to abandon their own customs and traditions in favor of French ones. Africans could run for political office and occupy other positions in the colonial governments, but the French controlled the most important positions in the colonies. Characteristics of the colonies. Asia. During the 19th century, demand for Asian products drove Western imperialists to seek for possession of Southeast Asian lands. Government by an indirect or direct rule. Colonies do not develop their own industries. Stress export of raw materials, wage laborers, and bad working conditions. Social and cultural aspects. Africa. European oppression made Africans resentful. By educating Africans, Europeans unwittingly introduced Western political ideas, individual freedom, political rights, and participation in government. Africans began to organize political parties and take steps towards independence. Social and cultural aspects. Asia. Emergence of local entrepreneurial class. Roads, harbors, and rail systems. Education, health, and sanitation improved. Migration of different cultures and racial makeups created cultural and religious clashes. Little social and economic improvements for laborers. People in Southeast Asia resented colonization. Resistance movements. Africa. The complexity of Africans' political relationships among themselves influenced the nature of their resistance to colonial rule. Ethiopia stands alone, however, as the one African society to successfully defend itself against an invading European army and remain free of direct European political domination. Resistance movements. Asia. People in Southeast Asia resented colonization. Burma. The king fought against UK domination. Vietnam. The emperor agreed with French protectorate, but local officials fought against foreign control. Early resistance failed. Western colonization. In 1900s, new kind of resistance. Peasants revolts. Burma, led by Buddhist monks. Westernized intellectuals began to demand national independence. Consequences of imperialism. Asia. In some countries like China, imperialism provoked a decreasing feeling of faith of getting an own sentiment of nationalism. In other countries like Japan, imperialism was a way out for all their problems and also their welcome as an important power between all the empires. Consequences of imperialism. Africa. In Africa, almost all the countries suffered the consequences of being divided like slices of pie by the European powers because of imperialism. Before, Africa was an important point of trade, after the European empires found a way to conquer them, which was the end for Africa. Nationalism and quest for independence. Africa. African people, because of their bad way of unification, were easily conquered by the Europeans, so the resistance movements were mostly useless. Asia. In 1900s, new kind of resistance. Peasant revolts, Burma, led by Buddhist monk, Westernized intellectuals, began to demand national independence. Personal opinion. I personally feel that imperialism is immoral. However, I also don't believe in passing judgment on historical events with modern sensibilities. I like to think I would have been against imperialism then, but I really don't know. We are products of a present kind of culture different from past ones. Nowadays, imperialism can still be seen in countries which were colonized by European powers, because they've got a big influence in foreign customs, for example, language, tradition, culture, art, etc.